welcome to the TLC Designs YouTube channel. Thanks for joining me today. My name is Lynn, and today I'll be making a slider card using some products from the very new Chili Fun suite. So in this suite, you'll find this slimline multi-slider die set, which is so versatile. So not only do you get this gorgeous border for your slimline cards, but you also get a lot of these different lengths of sliders, and that's perfect because some are long, very suitable for slimline cards or larger card sizes like the 5x7 card that I'll be creating today, and some are shorter. So it's really fantastic to have such a versatile die set. How I like to design my slider dies is I like to create this little slider mechanism here that will fit into the slot. It's just 3/4 inch circles that I use my circle punch to punch. So the two flat discs are punched out of 120-pound heavyweight cardstock, and the two center discs, which are folded in half, are punched out of 60-pound lightweight cardstock, and that's mostly because the lightweight cardstock can fold a little bit more easily. I have these two panels here, which I've already inked up. If you actually want to see the inking, you can check out my video, which will be released in a couple days on my channel, which is LV Handcrafted. So directly onto the card base itself, I've inked this sort of night twilight kind of sky. It's abandoned coral, distress oxide, dusty concord, and blueprint sketch, if you're curious to know the color combination. And to attach the slider mechanism to the card base, I'm cutting down some of my foam here. This foam is probably 2 to 3 millimeters thick. And anytime I create slider cards or interactive cards, I do like to use liquid adhesive, but you do need to be very mindful and aware of where that liquid adhesive is going, just to make certain that it doesn't ooze out and actually get where it might inhibit the movement of the pull tab. The pull tab I haven't mentioned is just a piece of scrap 120-pound cardstock that is 1 inch high. And I'll trim the width or length of this down when I actually dry fit it on my card, just so that I know how long I need. I think this strip started at 7 inches, which is the full width of the card that I'm creating. But I will I'll trim that down and then corner around the edges when I go to actually place this onto my card. So the extra foam here is going to just give enough room for the thickness of your pull tab. Sometimes I like to actually, even with 120-pound heavyweight cardstock, I do like to double up on that pull tab. That way, as you're pulling it, it doesn't feel bendy. And so with that extra thickness, you may want to use a thicker foam to give it enough room to slide and not have any additional sort of friction against your card base. So with the mechanism complete, I've already colored up one of the characters from the Chili Fun stamp set, which I think is just adorable. Lots of fun kiddos and critters playing in the snowy fun. And so I colored her using colored pencil. And so I wanted to save some time on the video and not leave the coloring in. So she's already been colored up, and I did choose the colors that I colored her with and the twilight sky background just to coordinate them a little bit. Here I'm making a little bit of a mistake, but it's not an irrecoverable mistake. I'm placing here my low profile foam, which is only 1 millimeter thick. So overall, this will still stay relatively flat, and I think it'll go through the mail without extra postage. However, I did not need that strip of foam across the top there. And I realized it just then because I need to attach to that circular disc that is traveling back and forth in our slot the acetate stand that our girl here will get attached to. And so that upper stretch of foam that's above the slot, it won't actually get adhered to anything, and it can't, in fact, because if it does get adhered down, then the acetate stand that our girl will get attached to won't be able to move back and forth. And so it's not the end of the world that I put that foam there, and as you might have noticed, I used foam to attach my acetate stand to the pull tab, and that's to match that height or that extra thickness that the foam that I mistakenly placed. Since I'm not going to peel that up, I do want to match the thickness of that, and that way the acetate is going to kind of have a smooth track to slide on. When I go to attach the panel that will cover this entire slider mechanism, I won't peel off the paper liner on that stretch of foam. So the only place that the this panel here will get attached is on the left, the bottom, and the right of our mechanism piece. And this piece here, I'm going to just trim it down to size because the height requirement is that I want it to completely cover the mechanism so that we hide kind of the inner workings of how this girl will be kind of floating across the ice. However, I don't want to have this stretch too far up to where you don't see any of that pink of the twilight sky. So that's why I trimmed it down a little bit. Now here, I thought sort of as an afterthought that it would be easier to grab this pull tab if I punched a little bit of a thumb notch through the card base. And so I tried to get my punch in there to do that, but I won't be able to. The pull tab is still very accessible because I did punch a pull tab or a thumb notch through the top panel, and it would have been easier to grab at it with the card base also notched out as well. So I would definitely recommend doing that if you're to create something similar to this. But that having been said, it's not the end of the world that I don't have a thumb notch there. So I think the card is still very functional. And so here you can see I've only released or peeled off the paper release liner on those three edges, the left, the bottom, and the right of our slider mechanism piece. And again, using liquid adhesive, you don't need a lot of it, so you don't have to be super generous. And in fact, it's best not to put too much because you just don't want that liquid glue to ooze where it shouldn't. And I highly recommend always testing your interactive mechanisms as you go, anytime you adhere a new portion of it down. That way, if there is anything that inhibits the movement of your slider, you are more likely to catch that right away and be able to fix it right away as well. Because most things you can fix without having to kind of redo everything. And because I want the acetate stand to be completely hidden, I'm going to fold it over and just cut it off. You could actually just cut it off without folding it and attach the girl to that little bit of exposed acetate. That would work perfectly well also. However, I'm going to leave in another, not a mistake, but just something else that I felt wasn't working quite the way I envisioned. Because the acetate is folded, it had this tendency to kind of jut out a little bit. So what I did to fix that was I actually kept the folded acetate so it's nice and strong, but I tucked it below the panel. And so you have to make sure, if that's the case, to not have any adhesive that extends beyond or below, I should say, the sort of that top layer, because it can very well get inhibit the movement of, or block the movement of the slider. And again, as another afterthought, that large space of the ice skating kind of rink area, it just felt a little bit plain, but I didn't want to put a sentiment there because I wanted the sentiment to be revealed when you slide this open. So I decided to take the hearts stencil and apply some crackle mousse through there, which happened to be a perfect match in the color. And that way it's not overly distracting, but it does add some extra interest and texture to that bottom portion. And I just love that crackle. And it does give it that sort of icy look. And I love that when you pull this out, that's when you have the sentiment revealed. So I hope that you liked my card today, and if you did, please consider subscribing to the TLC Designs YouTube channel. Thanks so much, and until next time, happy crafting and have a fantastic day. Bye!